Now, let's go on here. Let's talk about, you understand how products work now, but it's important we understand what our products are. So, what is a product? I remember going to a conference just during the summer, the Agile conference in the United States, and I attended a talk where somebody spent a lot of time explaining a product, which I thought was dumb. The short answer to what a product is anything. It doesn't matter. We can look at anything through a product lens. Let's suppose you work in human resources at your company. It's easy. All I have to do is say, who are my customers and users for human resources? Well, the people that I work with are the employees of my company and my leadership. The leadership are my customers, and employees are my users. And I do things like support the hiring process, and I support handling communications and the rollout of new policies, and I may support employees and managers during a dispute or help employees as they exit my company. And I could evaluate myself based upon how many documents I write and how good those documents are. But if I consider myself a product, then I will evaluate the employees and how often they use this products and services how often they use those documents I write, if they get value from those documents, if it helps them, if employee satisfaction is good. It doesn't matter how much work I do. What matters is employees taking advantage of that work and using that work. I can treat anything as a product. So that's the first rule of thumb. You need to start to understand what you do from a product perspective. And again, that's where, is your product building software for your company, or is the software you build the product? So we want to look at the software we build as a product. Now, during the last year, I was working with this company. This company is Volvo. They make trucks. Volvo makes trucks and earth-moving equipment, and one of the things that Volvo understands, and you need to understand, is that products like trucks are filled with lots of smaller products. If you disassemble a truck, you're going to find it has braking systems and engine components and things like that, and Volvo, as a truck company, recognizes that every one of those products inside the truck is also a product. And those products often get used across many different trucks. But the reason Volvo and I were talking with each other is because they forget that when they talk about software. They end up rebuilding the same software over and over again. They wouldn't rebuild the same braking system or same engine over and over again, but they do that with software. And they forget what the software products are inside. So if you build software, you need to understand what your digital products are. Now, I'm prepared to talk about this. Look, if we understand that anything is a product, if we can identify our product, what we need to do is think outside in, or what's outside the product, that's what matters. Now, the first layer of things we need to understand outside the product are our customers and our users. Now, I want to re-explain the difference. The other word for customers is often choosers. These are the people that decide they want to buy or use a product. One of the things they focus on is the value proposition. How will using it bring me value? Your company had to decide whether having Jira inside the company would make its employees more efficient or more effective. If I want to use Spotify, I will look at my value proposition. I get value from Spotify by listening to music, and I still don't listen to podcasts on Spotify. I don't think it does as good a job with that. But in order to get value from Spotify, I must use it. To use Spotify, that means I have to do things like signing up and signing in and looking for music and creating playlists. Those are all the usages that bring me value. So to understand a product, we need to understand its users and its choosers. What value proposition are we delivering, and how do we need to use it in order to get that value proposition? So if you're responsible for a product, that's what you're going to need to understand. Now, every organization has end customers. and customers and users. And they stand outside your company, and they purchase your company's end products. Now, an easy example for me to use is a bank. Everybody here probably has a bank account of some type. And the reason you go to your bank is, well, to get that bank account. You may have what's called a checking account, although no one writes checks anymore. You may have something like a credit card. You may have something like a loan for your car or for your home or something like that. Those are the bank's end products. And the bank knows that. Inside the bank, there will be product managers and teams that are focused on those end products. But they're not digital products, but they take lots of digital technology to make those products work. So if we want to figure out what our digital products are, we take our digital wrench and screwdriver and we start taking apart the end customer experience with the product. When we do that, we will find products like end customer enabling products. For a bank, end customer enabling products are things like their website or the bank's mobile app. Now, we recognize this as a product. This may be obvious, but banks freak out when I tell them this. They will tell me, that's not a product, that's a channel, or they'll use special language to talk about it. These are products and these are channels. And I say, well, it doesn't matter. A channel is a kind of a product, and you need to operate these like a product. And you also need to understand it as an enabling product, because that website and mobile app are used across all of your other products. We use the same website to support all of our checking accounts, credit cards, and loans. It's a common website that's used for all of these. Just like in Volvo, a braking system may be common across many different products. Now, we recognize as the product and organize teams around those things. And the first thing those teams need to understand, and let me draw these as some layers here. We often refer to this as the onion model because I'm going to peel this onion back. But the one thing you need to understand is that your customers and users, well, they come from above. So if you build a website and mobile app, you know that you've got these end customers and users that will use your website and mobile app, but you also know that people that get value out of their product are the people we often call stakeholders inside the organization. If they have a new credit card product, they can't get their product to market without your website and mobile app. You've got to worry about the value proposition of the people inside the building and the people outside the building. This makes your life really hard. You've got to be aware of all these customers. If we keep unpacking this experience, one of the things that we're going to find are employee enabling apps. Employee enabling apps for a bank, banks often have physical branches. So we'll talk about the apps that people work within the branches or locations. Banks often have call centers, so we'll have call center apps. We recognize those as products. We organize teams around those products. And we know that the users of those products are employees. Employees that work at bank branches, employees that work at call centers. But we know that they're users, they're not choosers. They don't get to decide whether they use the product or not. The choosers are often their bosses or their what we call business stakeholders again, but these business stakeholders are responsible for operations. They lead call centers, they lead branches. We know that these people, employees, they work with these end users, but we know that if we build a call center app, our users that matter, the people that, when we build new features and functionality, we focus on whether people in branches or call centers actually use those and whether they're more efficient and more effective. That's what matters to us. That's the value we're paying attention to. Now, let's go one level deeper here. If you work for a bank and you build a website or a mobile app or a branch app or a call center app, you will need to write software that allows you to look at customers and all of their accounts and make payments and show balances, things like that. In fact, every single one of these teams needs the same thing. When you have a lot of people that need the same thing, that creates a market for a product. And what we do is create another common kind of product. We're going to call this kind of product team enabling. Now for this kind of product, its customers are these other product teams. And this type of product often takes the form of an API or a service, or sometimes we'll call this a platform or components. But it's a product and it has many customers. The customers and our product teams, the users are engineers on those product teams. And what we pay attention to is whether they use the APIs and services and whether they're more efficient and more effective, whether they can build and support applications better and faster. That's the value they focus on. And we recognize these as products also and manage them like a product. We worry about the customer satisfaction for these internal customers. Let's add one more thing here. These kinds of product team enabling things have a habit of kind of bubbling out to the outside edge. We call these things, when they bubble out to the outside edge, partner enabling. Partner enabling products often still take the form of an API or a service, but the customers for these partner enabling things are partners that will use those APIs and services to construct their own applications. I know that my accounting software can connect directly to my bank, and my accounting software knows my balances. It's because they use my bank's partner enabling services to do that. So look, if you're, the first thing I'll ask organizations to do is to build a product taxonomy. Tell me what your products are, and then organize teams around those. Now, Jim yesterday talked about a book for figuring out what your product teams are. That's, wow, what was it? Team Topologies. It's a great book, but it talks about value stream teams, and it's just confusing to me because my head thinks in products. In the fine print of Team Topologies, they will say a value stream team is what often people call a product team. You need to understand your product topology, and you need to organize teams around those. So recognize what your products are, organize teams around those, and what's interesting is I don't care how durable your teams are, I care how durable your understanding of products are. Teams may move from product to product or from product team to product team, but there will always be a mobile app team. There will always be a website team. There's more here to talk about because sometimes it takes many teams to create a website or a mobile app, and there's teams of teams. I like Jim's solution yesterday of scaling vertically, letting teams get a little bit bigger than Scrum usually likes them. Now we call this an onion model because we're peeling it back, and we look above to figure out where our customers come from, but we also call this an onion model because the closer you get to the center, the more it stinks and the more it makes you cry. The closer you are to the center, the more customers and users you have to worry about, and the harder it is to preserve their interest, the more pieces of value you need to look after. This makes product thinking very difficult. Now let's summarize this, and I've got one last area to cover. Let's see if I can do this quickly. Look, we organize teams around our digital products. We decompose customer, supplier, employee experiences to find our enabling digital products. These are enabling products. The components that are used across many of those products, we identify those as product team enabling products. And we give product teams ownership and responsibility for their product's success. That's what it works. That's when we focus on the value of the product, not how fast teams are producing things. Now let's mention this. One of the things we do in mature product companies is we stop funding projects. We fund products. In working with the US company Target, right around 2017, they stopped funding projects. Or right now, 80% of their technology funding comes in way of product funding. That means they recognize that there's an app, they fund that app, and what they do is every 6 months they review the product team's funding and say, should we increase their funding, decrease their funding, or continue their funding? And the way they do that is they look at metrics. Sarah Francis is a finance person at Target that I talked to, and Sarah said, this is so much easier than what we used to do. We used to have to look at these business case and calculate return on investment, and we knew the return on investment was voodoo, was fake anyway. We never went back and actually measured the return on investment, but now it's simple. Every 6 months, we just check the team's KPIs or their metrics and see if they're producing value. And then we make decisions on whether to increase or decrease their funding. So here's the last thing I want to talk about. Let's see how quick I can do this so we can have a lot of time for questions.